Hello guys, I hope everybody is doing good. We're going to be talking about the important concepts from the SCR book, and I'm explicitly focusing on the April 2024 exam. Okay, and I'll be walking you through the entire GAR book, and I'll be making pointers, or I'll be making basically star marking for important concepts. Okay, so let us start with the discussion. So first chapter, foundation of climate risk. Okay, even though this chapter seems easy in the exam, a lot of students were facing problem in the last October exam from this chapter, and the quartiles they got was not that good. Okay, so when you're reading this chapter, the introduction is pretty much very basic. So, one second. Modern climate change is okay. You can have something related to this diagram. So the basic concepts around this diagram should be clear. Then climate change before human section. Over here, there is these parameters, the proxies that can test you directly in the exam. And also they've talked about this little ice age, so you can definitely make a read of this paragraph. Okay, this diagram can get tested in the exam. Okay, because they highlight what might have happened. Say they will give you this region and they will say why there has been a decrease or something like that, and they will give you some scenario around it. Okay, energy balance concept is important. Mark this as double star. This two get tested in the exam. Greenhouse gas effect, how humans are changing. Keeling's curve, the concept is important. So definitely this diagram also mark it as star. Okay, they might ask you more content related to this. Then the chemical composition is okay. All of this. 1 second. So aerosol related concepts are important, and what exactly global warming potential means. So this section is important. You can read this, and this paragraph also you should definitely read. This one. Summarizing human impact. Evaporation is okay. This diagram connects back to the radioactive forcing. The concept of radioactive forcing, you should be clear. So mark it as star. Water vapor feedback loop as a concept is very important. So mark it as star. Attribution of modern warming. Now over here, tectonic output. This one, orbital variation can get tested. Then unforced variability, mark it as double star, important. And this concept can be asked in theory or scenario based questions, very likely questions. Greenhouse gas is okay. Summary of attribution, this one, this write-up where they unequivocally talk about that the major greenhouse gas emission that has happened is because of us humans. So that basic understanding, this entire section, okay, this entire section is important. SSPs, so what can happen in different SSPs? Okay, so primarily the SSP1, okay, and then there is SSP5. Okay, both of them are important. SSP5 is important. The diagrams are okay, not very well tested in the exam. Let us move forward. SSPs and their connection with RCPs, just read it out. Impact of modern climate change. Now over here, more or less it's okay. Temperature paragraph you can read. This section you can definitely read. Precipitation, this section, and this wets get wetter and dry gets drier. That entire section you should definitely read. Change in precipitation, ocean acidification, that concept, okay, is important. Okay, this entire section you should definitely read. Positive feedback, albedo effect is an important concept, so mark it as star. This paragraph important. Extreme event, is okay. Impact on human society and natural ecosystem, climate tipping point. This concept should read. The rest is okay. Policy response in this maladaptation, mark it as star, important. Mitigation, moving towards greener. So you can read this paragraph, this entire section, mark it as star. Biogas is okay. Carbon capture, utilization and storage, this part is important. This part also important, mark both of them as star. Rest is okay. Clean energy transmission. Geoengineering as a concept, mark it as double star. Okay, so whatever is the bifurcation in geoengineering, whatever categories are there, all of them has to be clear to you. So mark this entire section as star. Forest conservation, greenhouse, soil mitigation target. This section you can read, mark it as star. Mitigation target. Mark this as also star. Emission scenario for 1.5 degrees Celsius. Mark this paragraph. Let us move towards the next chapter. Sustainability chapter. The first three concept, what does sustainability means, that is important. Historical background is okay. The basic idea of ESG, read it properly. Okay, over here also the criteria of ESG has to be clear in the mind of students who are preparing for the exam. This paragraph, by default, make sure that you're good with that, this entire section. Sustainable development goals. You can look at this diagram and also read this entire section. Okay, you might be given this diagram and ask certain specific question, leading question to that. People, planet, prosperity, peace, entire part is important. SDG and their target. This one you can read. No need to read this section also. Implementation of the SDG target. This example is also not important. This example, nature-based solution, is very, very important. Do not skip this. Okay, do it properly, especially these pointers. Okay, do it properly. We can also mark this diagram as star. Ecosystem services. Basically, you need to have a clear understanding of what does supporting means, what does provisioning means, regulating means, and cultural means. So these section. Then you need to be clear what is natural capital. Mark this as star. Sustainability at corporation and financial organization. This one, triple bottom line concept, is important. Reporting is okay. This entire thing, decoupling, greenwashing and SCR, that entire thing, and this part, green crowding, green shifting, green labeling, green hushing, all of this is important. This paragraph you can read. Now the LCA part, you might not need to know everything, but you can just read these two sections. Moving towards sustainability as a source of risk. Nothing extraordinary over here. You can read this case example, the Brazil example, important. PRI reference you should definitely read. And you can read this paragraph PRI. Then you have the first one. Next, with respect to the reporting aspect, so global reporting initiative section, then you have sustainability board. So you can read this sustainability section, sustainability accounting standard board. Case study is okay. These things are more or less the same. So we have completed the second chapter. We are moving towards the third chapter, which is the climate change risk. The basics of climate risk is okay. From here, what is physical, what is climate transition risk, you should be clear. You can read this paragraph of TCFD. Over here, what exactly hazard means, what exactly exposure, what is vulnerability, that concept has to be clear. Stranded asset, very, very important. So mark this as star. This is important. Okay, so you can look at this diagram both at the facility level, and the corporate level, how things are going to happen for both physical and transition risk. When we enter into physical risk, so what is the basic bifurcation between the acute and chronic? That you should be clear. So I'm highlighting this section, this table. Projected temperature rise. You can look at this diagram also. Global precipitation change. You should definitely read this entire section, this paragraph also. Direct physical risk and data granularity. This section is important. Also mark this section. Supply chain risk, mark this as star. This small part over here. Opportunities, resilience and adaptation. When we go into the detail, more or less it's okay. Transition risk, first they are giving you the brief overview of transition risk, and then how does the transition risk is going to happen. You can mark this diagram as also star. What are the factors of transition risk? That is important for you to remember. So first one is policy and legal risk, important, this section. The case study is okay, not very important. Next is technology. So what exactly the technological risk means. So we're going to be highlighting certain specific part. Then you have reputation section. So basic should be clear over here in the transition risk reference. Social license to operate is important. Okay, bottom of pressure, you can read this part. Market and other transition risk. This section you can read. Now this just transition, this paragraph, you can read properly. This also. Transmission into finance, the economy and the key sector. Okay, so there are two case studies over here. So the real estate case study is important, especially this diagram. In the electricity generation, they have talked about the shutdown. This one, this entire thing. Both the paragraph are important. Okay. So we are moving towards the next chapter, which is your fourth chapter, sustainability and climate policy, governance and culture. Let us start talking about this chapter in detail. So we're talking about the climate policies. UNFC, okay. CO2 is increasing, UN body. So initially, what was the level of carbon emission is okay, that discussion point. This entire thing. And this part, the allocation part, important. And this part, double star, very, very important. Okay. The current level of emission and the cumulative emission, that is very, very important. So over here, these diagrams refer to that same discussion. Historically, what other countries were emitting, and now there is China and India who are doing a lot of emission. Collective action problem, this small part is important. A briefer introduction of Kyoto. What was there in Kyoto Protocol? Because if you understand this, then the Paris Agreement becomes very easy to understand. So that section I've highlighted. Then the basic introduction of what was there in the Paris Agreement. This ratchet mechanism is very, very important. You can read this paragraph also. National climate, national policy, the basics of carbon pricing, carbon taxes, this upstream, midstream, and downstream. Various mechanism. It's okay. This one. Feed-in tariff also important. Just energy transition partnership is okay. So over here you can look at this in the table. This, and automobile efficiency requirement. GHG emission accounting at the corporate level. These one are important. Scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. This diagram is important. This entire thing. Mark it a star. You can also read this section, mark it a star. Double counting, deduplication is important. Concept should be clear. Multilateral banks and okay. Rest is okay. You can read this paragraph also. Public policy to promote adoption of green, these hubs and task force section is important. You can read this case study. EU taxonomy is important. Proponents of green taxonomies. This bifurcation or drawbacks of green taxonomy, entire thing, this entire thing. Then this section, green and brown and transition. Then we are entering into the broader concept of micro prudential and macro prudential. That is important, marking it as star. Bank of England case study, double star. Very, very important. Do not skip this. Rest is okay. This part. more or less theoretical information, so not that very important for the exam. This section, this is okay, more or less not very important. Climate plus 100 is important. Remember, TCFD is important. Net zero asset owner alliance is important. So with this, we have kind of completed this chapter. Also, we're going to be moving towards the 5th chapter now: green and sustainable finance, market and instrument. Over here, what does the bifurcation between sustainable finance, green finance and climate finance? That should be clear in your mind. Over here, these things, who are actually spending, or how the capital is coming into the market with respect to sustainability and green finance. So, okay, net zero correlation. This section, important. This part, what does green bond means? This is okay. Proceed. Yes. ICMA green bond principle, double star, very important. Everything in this, especially this external review. Social bond is okay. Sustainability and SDD bond, read this section. The green loan part is okay. You can read the basics of two. What is sustainability linked bond and sustainability linked loan? Okay, case study is not that important. Read this. So more or less, green car loan is okay. Sustainable credit card, you should read this part. This is also important. This case study of Tesla, important. Integration into the investment decision and portfolio management. It's okay. This section. And then the shareholder engagement, market as star, important. This part is also important. So we have done shareholder activism. You can read this case study. There's one more case study, yes. LNG insurance, very important. Investment management, how they do name and shame of the companies and what is the basic process that they follow, very important. And why should we look at this existing and emerging taxonomy? Read this, disclosure perspective, read this, EU taxonomy. Then we have the conclusion. So rest is okay from this chapter. Let us go to the next chapter, which is the 6th chapter, which is also highly weighted: climate risk measurement and management. So over here, it's okay, more or less starting point. So we can mark this section as star. Then we can move towards macro and micro. This diagram is important, market as star. It's a summary basically. So definitely you should read this entire section. Now all of this table is important for you to read in terms of summary. The entire discussion is still there in the bottom, because over here they have given you what are the key metrics, how do we look at physical and transaction risk, everything in detail. So operational level, this paragraph and this paragraph, this one, mark this as star, and the theory related to it. Read this. Firm specific liquidity risk. Within this, the key metrics has to be analyzed. This paragraph also you need to read. Minsky movement can get tested. I'm not very bullish on it, but at least make sure that you read it properly once. Insurance premium key metrics. Then you have, as we move ahead, this is okay. This one is important. This section is important. You can read. Operation risk is okay. Mark liquidity risk is star. Market risk is star entirely. Value at risk. This section is double star. The entire case study, this entire thing is very, very important. Rest is okay. Sovereign risk. Is okay. Climate risk data and analysis. Company level data. So this section you can read. Temperature score. This second diagram important, which is also explained over here. Company level risk data. This section. This section. This entire calculation, please go carbon intensity and weighted average carbon intensity, definitely you should read. Then TK climate war, enterprise risk management, the basic introduction of COSO framework. Risk in culture, the first paragraph over here, what exactly is governance? Then corporate strategy part, first example reference over here. Materiality assessment, the concept is important. Read this. ING Vaishya case, ING case study, not very, very important. The SWOT analysis you can read. You can read this section. Risk assessment part and risk priority part. McKinsey or third party is okay. Risk response review, this part. Forces proactive monitoring for changes in risk exposure. Almost done with the chapter. So let us go to the next chapter, the 7th one. Introduction to scenario analysis. This reference scenario logic. You can read this entire section. What is scenario analysis? Double star. Do not skip this. It's very, very important. You can read the last 5-6 lines over here. From here, just 3-4 lines at the top. this section and also this diagram, this part, IPCC scenarios, RCPs and SSPs. RSPs and SSPs basic introduction. You can read this. Read this part. Mark this as star. You can read this section. In this section, mark it as star. This is okay. This write-up you can read. This paragraph of International Energy Agency. This entire section, IEA most laggard to the forefront. That entire section with the diagram. Okay. This section. This diagram is important. And over here, whatever is the understanding been given. Rest is okay. Model. You can read this part and what exactly is the sector decarbonization pathway. Basic stuff over here. Commercial data provider is okay. Pacta for bank, important. This, especially this first two paragraph. You can read this also. Mark this as star. Physical climate model, the first two paragraph. And then basically we are going to look at the next one, Tech Finance. Yes, you can mark this case studies also star. These diagrams, a basic understanding should be there about these diagrams. Stakeholders is okay. Okay, this part, risk resilience and risk resilience planning. This one also. BHPs, okay. These scenarios are important. So mark the scenario for BHP built-in section. Again, over here also these scenarios are important. In this paragraph. Ex ante. So we have kind of completed this chapter. HSBC. You can mark this case study as star. The last case study section is not important. Let us move to the last chapter of this curriculum. Net zero. Mark this diagram as star. And this paragraph. This part. Table is okay. Meaning of net zero and how to get it right. Front end load mechanism. Equitable transition. Actually, you can read all of these pointers. Important. Countries and this one. Consumption based and production based methodology of calculating carbon emission. Very, very important. Subnational, yes. Basic and basic plus. This is okay. Scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 important. Yes, this section. Financial sector. This entire part. SBTI's guidance for financial sector. Yes, three of the bullet points. Market a star. Okay, stage of transitioning. Challenge of carbon offsetting. Yes, this entire section double star. This also double star. So this over here, this section. Zero credibility gap. Yes, market a star. Important. L'Oreal Group, read this section. This one, you can read this part. Last one. This paragraph also. Use of metrics is okay. GG protocol, this first one is important. This and this. This is okay. Not very, very important. All of them, these things are important. Applied CBIT. This case study also market a star. This is okay. Reporting. This entire paragraph for double materiality important. Then we have done with this chapter. So with this, we have completed all the 8 chapters. So this is what I feel that these are the few sections which can get tested in the exam. And with respect to the required reading, there's one required reading for chapter 6, okay, which is nothing but the climate risk measurement and management, which talks about implementation of the recommendation of the TCFD guidelines. That is only small one, 3-page, 4-page. All the formulas, they can get tested in the exam, so do not skip that. Then there is one more required reading, which is, if I'm not wrong, with respect to chapter 4, the GHG protocol. Just read it quickly. Good chance that they might ask you a question from there. Okay, so with this, we have completed the important concepts for the entire SCR April 2024 exam. I hope you like this video. Do subscribe to our channel for more such amazing content.